let's talk about this testimony in a closed-door setting today. That's one of my questions on whether or not Devon Archer will testify in public in an open forum before the entire House Oversight and Reform Committee. Let's talk about this even further, though, with friend of the program and legal analyst Andrew Lieb. He joins me on this Monday. Andrew, good to see you. So my first question to you is, Devon Archer, do you think he is a credible witness? I only ask that because as he testified today, he was convicted of fraud back in February of last year. He has yet to be sentenced in that case, and over the weekend, this kind of got a lot of attention. The U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Damian Williams, asked a judge to set a date for the sentencing, prompting speculation of intimidation from the DOJ to Archer before today's transcribed interview. Now, Archer's attorneys over the weekend kind of poured cold water on that, saying that he and Archer did not see that weekend memo from the Southern District of New York as intimidation. But to my original question, how credible do you think Devon Archer is, knowing that?
Andrew, it's such a tough question, having not watched this closed-door testimony, to know the credibility of the witness. But what I can tell you is that Matthew Schwartz, who's Archer's attorney, is the one who poured cold water on the theory that he was being intimidated. And if you go around and you ask anyone who practices when it comes to the Southern District of New York, it's not so uncommon for them to say the report letter that they were talking about. So we're not seeing that really as a big thing. It's a big nothing. Now to the actual testimony and what's going on, it really depends on what take you take from what happened in the closed-door testimony. You could go read Dan Goldman's take and you have one explanation of what happened in credibility. And then you could take James Comer's take and you have a complete opposite of what happened in credibility. But what I can tell you is that Devon Archer was Hunter Biden's best friend, his business partner, and purportedly what he said was that Joe Biden was on the phone approximately 20 times when Hunter was speaking to foreign people. Now, whether Joe Biden was complicit, Devon Archer said, I never heard him talk about business dealings. But at the end of the day, I think it's just another piece in the puzzle. He's not the smoking gun. He's not the guy. You never bet your whole case on someone who's going to jail for defrauding a Native American tribe. That's all I can tell you, Andrew.
Okay, so I just want to get to the point, though, of what Devon Archer is claiming, that more than 20 times Joe Biden was on speakerphone while Hunter was dealing with some of these foreign actors from foreign companies. Sometimes, you know, in the room with Hunter Biden and Devon Archer while Joe Biden was potentially on speakerphone. Now, that doesn't look good ethically. My questions are about the criminality, if at all, or legally speaking. How would Biden be ensnared in this from a criminality standpoint, if at all? Because I think you would agree that that doesn't look so good, that, you know, there could be influence peddling. Joe Biden is on the phone while Hunter has these foreign business partners in the room with him. But as far as, you know, any statutes that may have been broken, that seems to me to be the leap here that maybe the committee is trying to determine.
Well, when it comes to Joe Biden, as we remember when Trump was president, there's a memo that says, a DOJ memo says you can't charge a sitting president. So I think the real question is when it comes to impeachment. In the previous package, we talked about the impeachment inquiry, and we've heard McCarthy speaking about how he's going in that direction. High crimes and misdemeanors don't necessarily mean statutorily offenses. But just to put it out there, no one's debating that Hunter seems like a bad guy that's doing influence peddling. And the talking point of, yeah, it's the brand, it's Joe Biden, that all fits in this narrative. It seems like something bad and not on the up and up was happening. Just like we could be talking about Jared getting $2 billion, that doesn't seem like on the up and up, or what's happening with Ivanka when she's dealing with her copyrights and everything else. There's this action of we don't want people around the president or the VP to use influence to get somewhere. And I have to tell you, Hunter does not look like a good guy after today.
Yeah.
That all being said, does that mean that Joe Biden did anything wrong? And I have to put out again that nothing I'm hearing today is crossing the line to criminality. It might be worth, as McCarthy pointed out, he didn't say impeachment. He said impeachment inquiry.
Right.
An impeachment inquiry doesn't mean impeach. It just gives them more authority. Let's keep the investigation going. Let's see what else happens. But for now, I'm not seeing a crime. I don't know about you, Andrew.
Okay, but there's another thing we don't know as well, whether or not this happened when Biden was vice president or kind of in the interim period between him as vice president and him as President Joe Biden. How important is that distinction, Andrew?
Well, it's important, but there's a much more important distinction of whether Joe Biden, what he was aware of what was going on, how much he was involved in the influence peddling, how much he was part of the brand. You could go with Dan Goldman's perspective, and I know people go, well, why are you saying that he's just greeting his son? They're just talking about the weather. And everyone's making fun of Goldman now, saying he just is talking about the weather. But when you look at criminality, you always have to say beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
And unless there's evidence that someone did criminality, speculation doesn't get you there. So who knows why these calls were happening? But if he is the VP, to answer your question precisely, it seems like he's using the office, the executive branch, to benefit himself financially, the whole Biden family. But if he's a private citizen, Joe Biden, as well as his son Hunter Biden are a private citizen, there's no influence that he could be peddling. Joe Biden doesn't have the strings of government at that point. Okay. That would be like saying Reagan's son, who's on TV, that's saying he's influenced. He's a former. He's not a current guy. So what happens in the Bush family now is kind of irrelevant. What happens in the Clinton family is kind of irrelevant. It's when you're in the wheels of power that could be real influence peddling. We want to know if this Burisma thing and all these things shaking out of the prosecutor getting fired are because of Hunter's influence peddling. But you have to jump. You don't have a clear line. There is no clear evidence yet of anything improper. But to answer your question, if he's VP, it's much more relevant. If he wasn't VP, I think
Sure.
The end of the conversation's already happened.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Goldman, the congressman, the Democrat from New York, he's really getting panned for that today because he said it on camera, and I'm just going to kind of paraphrase here. He said after, and he was in the interview with Devon Archer because he sits on the committee, that while there were times, roughly 20 or so, where Biden exchanged, quote unquote, niceties with Hunter Biden's friends or business associates, quote, they never discussed any business, citing Archer's comments to the panel. That's also a line you've heard now in the last week from the White House as well. During the 2020 campaign, it was the question to Biden, then candidate Biden, was whether or not you discuss any of these business dealings with your son, Hunter. But now, as of last week, the line from the White House has been the president was never in business with his son, Hunter. So there's a lot of semantics at play here. There's a lot of distinctions without a difference at play here. But do you buy what Dan Goldman is saying?
I may not buy the wording he's using, but I buy, as I said before, that the burden on the person alleging criminality, not the burden on the person defending it. Meaning that it's not up to Biden or Biden supporters to come out and say, let me explain to you what actually was happening. There is no direct linkage there. He's the president. We would like to hear exactly what was happening. But whether he was involved in the same business or they were discussing business, as you were just referencing, the real question is, was he using the wheels of our executive branch to benefit himself and his family? If yes, problematic. If no, not problematic. Biden's always been known to speak unclearly or with gaffes and to not be the most articulate fellow in the room on certain of these comments. I don't think it's a gotcha moment where you said this wrong and now we got egg on your face. The real question moving forward is, did Joe Biden, through Hunter Biden or otherwise, leverage his influence and power as a vice president to benefit himself or the family? Think about that like a breach of fiduciary duty. Did you help yourself and not your company? That's what breach of fiduciary duty means. And I have seen zero evidence yet besides speculation that occurred, Andrew.
All right, so I just want to put up the statement we got from a White House spokesman, Ian Sams, about this testimony today. They say it appears that the House Republicans' own much hyped witness today testified that he never heard of President Biden discussing business with his son or his son's associates or doing anything wrong. House Republicans keep promising bombshell evidence to support their ridiculous attacks against the president, but time after time, they keep failing to produce any. In fact, even their own witnesses appear to be debunking their allegations. Instead of continuing to waste time and resources on this evidence-free wild goose chase, House Republicans should drop these stunts and work with the president on the issues that actually impact Americans' daily lives, like continuing to lower costs, create jobs, and strengthen healthcare. I know that's a political question, Andrew, so we'll just have to see whether or not, you know, this does politically catch up with President Biden, this kind of drip, drip, drip regarding his son Hunter and all of these alleged financial improprieties. Before I let you go, though, I did want to just kind of get your thoughts on who could be President Biden's main rival come 2024. That's former President Donald Trump. Andrew, he posted this on Truth Social today, and I'm reading this right now. And this is regarding the pending third indictment in the January 6th probe that could be brought by Jack Smith possibly this week. He says, I assume that an indictment from deranged Jack Smith and his highly partisan gang of thugs pertaining to my peacefully and patriotically speech will be coming out any day now as yet another attempt to cover up all of the bad news about bribes, payoffs, and extortion coming from the Biden camp. Trump says any day now. We'll leave it at that. Are you expecting a third indictment this week from Jack Smith?
I think Trump's pretty good at predicting his own future. I think that substantively he's right. I don't know why he uses, well, it's Trump. He uses all these adjectives. I just want to go back to your last statement, though, on when it comes to Devon Archer, and I'm going to say it for both Trump and for Hunter or Joe. It is good that the Republicans are looking into Hunter and Joe Biden. It's good that the Democrats are interested in going on with what's going on with Trump. People underestimate the impact of the media and the other branches of government play in a checks and balance system. It's good to always keep these people in check and not let them have free reign, because we don't want to see Trump, when it comes to January 6th, or anyone like Trump, to go and try and use fake electors and try and steal an election. And we also don't want to see anyone like Biden, Joe Biden, if he did it or not, trying to use the wheels of government to try and benefit themselves as opposed to the government. And so we don't have to look at it as two separate teams. We have to look at the media, and the other party that's in power investigating is doing their job of keeping the other side in check. And I think overall that's a really good thing, Andrew.
Definitely. And you could make the argument that, you know, but for these congressional investigations, we might not know any of this about the president's son, his business dealings, what have you, as well. Andrew Lieb, as always, thank you so much for a measured conversation. We'll talk again. Thanks.
Thank you.